Still get my.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Well, good morning. It is Thursday. It is July the 17th, and it is Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network alongside my partner in crime, Mr. Nathan Wangler. I'm Jonathan Turner, and we have an interesting show here this morning. I was driving into work. This morning, driving here into the studio, and Mojo in the Morning. And if you don't know who Mojo in the Morning is here in Metro Detroit, he iHeartRadio host, longtime host. I think he's actually in the Radio DJ Hall of Fame or something like that. Anyways, they have this thing. It's called War of the Roses, and it's where first off, well, it's where the radio station calls, a scorned, the boyfriend or girlfriend of the scorned, lover, whatever, and try to find out if they would send flowers to them or to their, cheating girlfriend, whatever. Anyway, so it's a whole thing. The first thing that I have to say is if you are a cheating, scumbag, whatever, right? If you're a cheater out there and you actually have a phone call coming in where they're giving you free flowers to send to who you want, you don't send those flowers. You just pass. Okay? I don't know why you would even entertain this, but I guess maybe cheaters aren't the smartest people on earth. I don't know. And then the flip side of this is if you're the quote unquote person being cheated on or think you're being cheated on, I would love to know how the relationship goes after that whole thing happens and the person sends the flowers to you. Like how does that relationship land and stand the test of time? Do you get married? I mean, I'm curious the success rate of, if you think your boyfriend or girlfriend is cheating on you and you feel the need to do it in a very public way to catch them in the act, maybe you might want to have the bags packed before that call goes out. I don't know. I just right. I mean, have you ever heard that before? Have you ever
I've seen the highlights. I've seen the viral clips of this show because I believe they've had multiple of them.
Oh my God. Every week they do it.
I feel it. Yeah, all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. And yeah, to say that they're not the smartest people in the world, I think that's an accurate assessment. I think if you're going to do something stupid like that, delay, deny, defend, deny.
Ask
and if
for a lawyer.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. And if someone's going to call you about it, now I'm guessing the other side of this is the phone number is not going to be recognizable when it comes in. No. So not only are you answering the phone for a number that you don't recognize, although it may have the same area code as where you're from. Okay, I get that. Now someone's talking about, that stuff. You're talking about this with a stranger. Unless, they tell you where they're from and whatnot and what they're doing. The idiocracy of some people is fascinating to me. It's very fascinating to me. But I'm not going to put down the person who wants to make it a public scene because you know what? One of my favorite guilty pleasure shows of my life. You ever watch Jerry Springer at all? Was that ever a yes?
I mean,
so for everyone else's entertainment, for everyone else's entertainment, very great. Continue doing what you're doing. Continue outing yourself. We're all getting a good laugh out of it. But for your personal sake, yeah, there's a lot of what the kids call NPCs walking around the world right now who just really just don't know what's going on around them. They're just kind of walking and breathing and talking, and so it's probably one of those folks that do it. Yeah, but not the at least emotionally speaking, not the smartest people in the world. It's funny you say that, though. I was actually at a restaurant last night, Snug Arbor, here on the west side. Really good. You should go try it out if you're ever over this direction. I was actually privy to a similar fight in which husband disappeared apparently for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Family didn't know where he was. Wife came up with the kids, said, "Where were you?" He's like, "I was here waiting for you." And she's like, "No, you weren't. Where were you?" And that turned into a whole conversation, a whole fight on the sidewalk right in front of the restaurant. So that was prime time television right there, as I was waiting for the person I was with to finish up. And no phones. No, but I remember the entire transcript in my brain right now. And I think he was guilty, man. I mean, based off of what I was seeing, the mannerisms, normally I'd stand up, for the guy. I'm like, "Hey, man, leave my man alone." But he knew he was doing something wrong. So I love it. I love it. I love the drama. As long as it's not me, I'm all for it. But yeah, not the smartest people on earth. You could certainly say that.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. I don't disagree. So here is something that I came across this morning. I was woke up this morning, as I typically do. I grab my phone and look at the TikTok, look at Instagram, look at a lot of different things. And I came across this TikTok, and I need to put a disclaimer up like right now that we at the National Soccer Network, Nathan Wenger and myself, do not on any level agree with this. But I feel that showing this will actually help us in our conversation this morning about soccer in this country. So I'm gonna start this video. We're gonna talk about it for a couple minutes, but I'm gonna add it in here, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and play it. And let's see here. Well, just take a listen.
Let's stand together tonight. I know you teenagers are tired. You ran around and kicked the ball. How many played soccer today? Did you play soccer today? Was that part of the thing? No? Thank God. Soccer's for queers.
Now, again, I think it's first and foremost, again, disclaimer-wise, we do not agree with this.
Mm-hmm.
And you might say, well, why are you giving him airtime? Well, one, this is why.
I mean, I'm going to tell you that right now. Ain't no man running around in shorts kicking a ball. I mean, come on now. Look at me, people. Look at me. No. Football, that's like somewhere in another country. Football, that's when you hit somebody so stinking hard the mama feels it. See, in soccer, you run around, you kick the ball. Let's kick the ball. Let's go kick the ball. And then if you fall down, you get grass stains on your shorts.
So, yeah. First off, this is a pastor, a pastor. And here and as someone who is a Christian man, I say that proudly. I do. This disgusts me.
Yeah.
On so many different levels. Again, herein lies the problem with religion in this world, is it's become a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's weaponized. And we know that when you put people in positions of power and authority, things like this can happen. To stand in front of a room of children who clearly were part of some kind of a camp, is my guess. I don't know the full details of this. And to tell them that playing soccer is quote unquote, gay.
Yeah. Yep.
And and say that football, like American football, tackle football, is the only sport, right? Basically, is kind of how this is being said. And now, I could imagine that most people would be appalled by hearing this pastor saying this, appalled at the usage of words this pastor is using to describe soccer in this country or soccer in general, but not disparaged by the overall context of what he is saying, which is soccer is not a sport but football is it, right? I would imagine a lot of people, and if you were to go out and poll, people across this country, I would probably bet that 20 to 30% of Americans would probably say that soccer is not a quote unquote sport, or maybe even argue that it's just not a very physical sport. I do believe that to be the case. Why? Because where are we all attracted to? We're all attracted to the big hits and, injuries. And I mean, if you go to watch a NASCAR race, might be going there for the speed and the environment, but you're probably there because you want to see something crash. I mean, that's kind of like right. So when I hear this, it's something that you would think that would have been like gone 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago. Yeah, and again, obviously, this pastor might be looks to be older, but this is someone who's in charge of talking to youth in this country, and you're sitting there in that room, and you're a 13-year-old, you're a teenager, you're 15 years old, and you like playing soccer, and your pastor that you go to church is telling you that playing soccer is not a sport for men. Think you're going to go home with that? And I mean, yeah, I imagine some of them are probably like, yeah, whatever, screw that guy, whatever. But then there are some who are like, dude, that's my pastor. Okay. And he might not play soccer ever again. She might not play soccer ever again because of this guy. Especially if you're, I mean, you might just not put the cleats back on, because you don't want to get grass stains. You're going to play football instead. Now, granted, again, in the South, this is probably a pastor down south someplace, right, in Alabama or Texas, where football is king. We know that. It infuriates me to my core. And for two reasons. One is because, again, we have a Christian who claims to be a Christian. You sit there and you claim to be something. You are the head of a church, right? And you have the audacity to stand up there on a stage and tell kids that if they play soccer, that it's quote unquote, gay. That should piss off everybody.
It's interesting when you say that you consider yourself that you are a Christian man. I didn't know this about you. And I know that we try to stay away from this stuff. And, as someone, and I even had this conversation yesterday, as someone with a job in the public eye, I try my hardest to keep my personal dispositions as close to the vest as possible. Because when you don't do that, you run the risk of alienating people. Now, I don't care what side of the fence you're on. This is a reality of what we deal with in our position as men that are in our spots. If I was working at a factory, if I was working anywhere else, not that I would fly off the handle and do those things, but I wouldn't feel the need nearly as much to keep this stuff close to the vest. But since we're kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit today, I've kind of gone through this transformation, and I was obviously born in a very much religious family, and that's not a bad thing per se. But one of the things that I don't do that a lot of them do, and they find issue with it, and understandably so, is I don't go to church. I don't go to a body of people. I don't go to worship. I realize that people enjoy the community and everything like that. But who gave you the authority? Any of the pastors in this country? Did God give you the authority to tell people what to do and what to think? No. Because you don't know him as much or more than anybody else in that congregation does. We all have our own personal journey. We all have our own personal struggles. We've seen it and we believe it in different ways for everybody. And this is the thing that I always ran into, especially when I was in college going to a private Christian school. And I'm okay saying this now. I remember nothing quite to that extent, but stuff similar. And that's when I made the decision to not go anymore. Because before we even get to the word that he said, which is inherently problematic, and what pissed me off more is you can actually see someone raising their hand in the crowd while he's doing this, because he was asking people to raise their hands. So he wasn't speaking to a crowd of people that were all like-minded. He knew he wasn't, which to me, JT, tells me that he knew exactly what he was doing. And the bigger problem to this, in my mind, is the word. It is a disgusting word. But it's the racial and ethnic undertones that are taken on through what he said. Football, that's just something in a different country. That's just something that they do over there. That's just something that overseas, whatever, or in Mexico. If this is in the South, I would like to imagine that there is some sort of contingency of Hispanic people, Hispanic population. And so he is, by saying that, putting them down here and putting himself and everybody that maybe looks like him up here. All right, so let's start there. That, to me, is the most disgusting part of all of this. The thing that I think doesn't sit well with a lot of Americans, and it comes with arrogance, is that they view soccer as something that is the world sport. It's not our sport. It's something they do over there. It's something they do down there. It's not something we do here. He knew exactly what he was doing. And through that, you're attacking people who are different. That is something that, as a man of God, you are not allowed to claim that you're a man of God and do that shit.
Balls coming in here.
You're not allowed to.
What I did to offend you.
The audio's playing out loud.
Yeah, I know. I just started.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, but that is my biggest issue, is because you claim you are putting yourself and what you believe above what other people hold close and sacred. You cannot claim that you are a man of God and do that. This is the biggest reason why I don't go to church anymore. And I know that obviously he's not every pastor in the world. I get it. But that is a common theme in a lot of places. But the other side of this that I'll say is that the cultural insignificance of the sport in the United States comes from a place of ignorance and arrogance. Emphasis on ignorance. If you think it's a boring sport, congratulations. A lot of people think baseball is a boring sport. They refuse to watch it. A lot of people don't go to hockey games to watch the hockey. They go because they like violence. I know this because whenever I go to Grand Rapids Griffins games, the main portion of the fans or people that I go with, I stop shy of saying fans because I don't necessarily think they're fans of the game or the Red Wings or the players. They're fans of violence. There are a lot of sports out there that if you just want to claim it's boring, then that's fine. This is America. You don't have to love anything. There's even people out there who don't like American football. But again, because of the cultural conversation, they're going to show up. They're going to go to the party. The game's going to be on. Okay, if someone's having a Super Bowl party, they're probably going to show up just because it's a party and it's a gathering of people. Again, people like community. Doesn't mean you have to love the sport. But if you're going to, and I had this conversation on my social medias and with people that I knew, if you're going to sit in front of me and claim that soccer is not a physical sport, you're not watching the games. You're not watching the games. You've made up your mind. You're not consuming the sport. You're not watching the sport. You don't follow the sport. You have already made up your mind on what the sport is. And I know this because I am surrounded by people every day in my life who could not give a rat's ass about what happens in the soccer world. They could not care less. They might know who Messi is. They probably don't know who anybody else is, but that is the extent of their knowledge. And so I tell them this. I'm going to need you to do this, okay? If you actually believe this, get a ball, go out in an open field, okay? Get a buddy, get a friend, someone else. Start dribbling that ball, okay? Just start running with the ball on your foot. I need that other person to slide in at full speed. And if they get the ball first, if you go flipping head over heels and smack into the ground, that's perfectly legal. Next thing I need you to do is throw the ball up and go to attempt to head it.
Well, I was going to say, especially if you do this, it's legal. Like,
This is never going to die, is it?
No. And if you go for a header, this is also legal if you go for the headers.
That's great. But yeah, you see the goalie coming out. I need that goalie to run into you full speed. Maybe punch you in the side of the head. We've seen that before. These things, and that's not even jersey tugs, pulls, shoving, all of these other things that we see throughout the course of a game. And I talked about it when I did that international friendly between Flint City and the boys from Guadalajara. That introduced to me a brand new brand of how the game is played. And I've seen it on TV. I've watched Mexico, United States. I've seen the international rivalry, but I've never been exposed truly. And you get a different understanding when you're on play-by-play for these games than you do if you're just at home sitting watching, because you're only really kind of half invested in what you're watching. Got a completely different understanding of how the game is played. But it's really not about that. I understand that. Okay. So I'm just saying to those people who think the game isn't physical, you're wrong. Okay. It's time to step out of this arrogant little box that you've built for yourself. And I'm not open to anything else. And I only like the things that I like. You don't have to like it. I'm not saying anybody has to love it, but that is why there's this level of cultural insignificance in the sport in the United States, because there is a level of arrogance around it. Arrogance and ignorance, JT. That's what it is. And what pains me is that people will comment on our videos sometimes and go, Americans are just so ignorant. They're just so dumb. They don't know anything about the sport. I get it. Because if I grew up playing soccer/football, if I grew up playing that sport, I probably would have gotten bullied a little bit. I've seen it happen. I was in high school once.
What high school do you go to again?
Grand Rapids West Catholic.
I don't think you gotten picked in that. That school's got a pretty good soccer program.
Well,
even then,
yeah.
But state champions.
Believe you me, they did.
No, dude, I get it, man. I do. I think
the racial and ethnic undertones, and obviously using that word, you can't claim to be a man of God and do those things.
No, you can't. You
can't.
Again, I mean, I was raised I wouldn't, early in my life, I was raised in, when I say early, we would go to church every Sunday, but when life started to get hectic, obviously church was no longer our priority. I think that's like that for a lot of families. In the early going, you're taking your kids to church every Sunday, you make a big thing out of it, and then soccer and football and baseball and all the different things, summer vacations, all that takes a front seat, and religion takes a back seat. And then somewhere around high school, or after high school, it becomes like, hey, we go on Easter, we go on Christmas Eve, we become very, hey, there's some nostalgia about it, right? And so that was very much like it was like for me. I was raised Catholic. I didn't know anything about the church. I was never invested in the church, never invested in the religion aspect of it. I met my wife, and my wife was very much a follower of Jesus, and very much a follower, and did all these things. And she made it a priority for our family, and because of that, I made it a priority for our family. And and so, but I think the thing that's most important is, in order to be a person of faith, you don't have to go to church to do that. There's nowhere that says that, right? But being a believer and following, your religious beliefs. Those are all things that can be done outside of a church, and you don't need a church to do that. Because again, here lies the problem. And I don't want to go into this whole thing about the church, but herein lies the problem: is that everything we do in life correlates to a person or a thing, right? And if there's a person that you don't agree with, what does it do? We heard Victoria Quay on the show once upon a time talking about how a coach ruined it for her.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, had she had another coach, it wouldn't have ruined it for her.
Yeah.
We could all sit here and say that there's a coach, there's a boss, there's a teacher, there's somebody that ruined something for us because of that interaction, the human interaction. And so, yes, I think that that's a real thing. And we just saw it here on this video. I wanted to show that this morning because we were talking yesterday about, any athlete, right? Any athlete, who would you put on your roster, starting 11, coach, whatever. Doesn't matter what sport it is. I figured this actually really segue. It was a really good segue for us to talk, because here it is. We have people around this country who are like, well, soccer is not a man's sport. It's real sport is football. Real sport. We could take. First and foremost, I know that I could not go out as a former soccer player, and go right to a football field and have success. I also think it's true that a football player could just take off their pads and go onto a soccer field and have success. They don't necessarily translate. We could argue that a football kicker probably has a pretty good chance, and most of them are former soccer players, right? But they're not going out there and trying to kill people and hit people. They're trying to kill a soccer ball or kill a football. It's a different story. I don't know why we have to compare sports like this. I mean, again, if you ever watch a hockey game, usually they show before the hockey game, they show players warming up, and they're usually warming up somewhere down below, in the basement or under the bleachers of the stadium, in the hallways, by the locker rooms. You know what they're doing? They're juggling.
Yeah.
They're juggling with a tennis ball. They're juggling with a soccer ball. They're juggling.
Yep.
Yeah, they're juggling. So you don't see
That's
baseball
how our minor
players doing
leaguers
that.
warm up.
Yeah,
It's funny.
Yeah. So I hate that this component of it, because it's like, I get football is king. I get that basketball is pop. I get it. Not dumb. And to be fair, I love watching football.
Yeah.
I love watching football. I live for my Sundays in the fall and in the winter when we're watching the Lions on Sundays, regardless of whether they're winning or not. I would still watch.
Yeah.
Painstakingly, of course. So
my biggest issue here is when you think about stuff that brings people, societies together, you think of sports. When I think of what exactly is it that can bridge gaps between communities, cultures, different ways of living, it's sports. And when we're looking forward to 2026, and we're looking forward to the World's Game coming here, to see someone preaching in that way is the most troubling component of all of it. Because not only do I not think that you can't claim to be a man of God and say what he said, I think that that's actually going directly against what God wants to see in his people here. That's how disgusting I think what he said was. Because sports, whether that be American football, whether that be soccer, European football, those things bring people and they bring communities together. And so by saying that an entire sport and all the people that follow that sport and consume that sport and are a part of that sport, I imagine many of whom are a part of the faith community. If you're going to go out of your way to say, well, that sport is only for, I don't want to say the word, you guys heard it a little bit earlier, you are attacking one of the only things in this world that actually brings people, societies, and cultures together as one. You could argue music. You could argue other things that break down barriers and make people happy. JT, there is a reason why I went into sports broadcasting. Yes, it was something I dreamed about once upon a time, but I watched The Newsroom with Jeff Daniels. Okay. I thought it was fascinating. I thought it
refreshing.
was refreshing, breaking the big story, covering the stuff that's serious. I always used to watch, obviously growing up, because we had war in the Middle East, seeing people who were over there as journalists getting to interview the Mujahideen and all these other things. I was like, wow, that is fascinating. I would love to be a part of that. But then you realize all you're talking about and all you're covering is divisiveness, pain, war, political games. You're covering in live time the poorest of our community suffering due to the ego and the decisions of rich politicians who do not know your name and do not know your face. And to me, that struck me as not only just depressing, but something that I would not want to make myself a part of. And so when you get into sports, you get into it with the realization that it is beautiful because it is not only an escape, but it brings everybody together. I don't care if you're a 52-year-old divorced dad of 2. I don't care if you're a 24-year-old recent grad. You can be in any state of life, anywhere. You could be a homeless guy for all I care about. But when we're all following sports and cheering for a team and consuming stuff, it brings people together and it makes people feel good. If I thought God was on earth right now, that's what he would want to see. He would marvel at communities and cultures flooding to this country to see the world sport, being together in one place. Not this fear that we see every day, not what this guy is talking about. And I don't really care what his name is. That is the most disgusting part of all of that. Because that's why I love what I do. And I know that you probably feel the same way, JT. And I even said this, I was having a talk with someone yesterday that said, well, what makes you tick about this? Well, why broadcasting? Why? And it's not hearing my voice. It's not hearing myself talk. It's not trying to be a celebrity or be in the public eye. It's telling stories. It's showing the human side of the game in which we are consuming. Because everybody has one. Everybody has a story of trials, of tribulations, of what they had to fight through, of sacrifice, of hard work. All of these things that, mind you, we're taught that are positive virtues. If you claim to be a follower of God. Now, whatever God looks like to you, but all of them, at least as far as I know, preach peace, kindness, goodwill. What that pastor did is the opposite of all of that. That's the most disgusting component. You are attacking the thing that brings people together, specifically of different communities and different backgrounds. That's, if we're going to take anything away from this, that is the side that disgusts me the most. Because, like I said, If God was here, he would want to see everybody celebrating together. What exactly the humans can do. That's through sports, it's through music, it's through food. I even said it on this podcast before. There are 3 things in this life that we can always rely on bringing people together as opposed to tearing them apart. Food, sports, music. If you attack one of those 3 and you use it to divide people or to make some sort of statement, you cannot claim to be what you are. And I mean, yeah, frankly, I'm disgusted by it. Very much disgusted by it. And I think it is important for the people who are following our show to know exactly that. We don't prescribe to that. And as someone who is admittedly so, and I've said it multiple times, and I've learned as I've gone, I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from the other people. I've learned a lot from just watching it and consuming it. Hell, just even playing the video games. Like you'd be amazed how much you can actually learn from just playing video games. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it is something that you very much pick up on. I was not exposed to the sport much in the same way that I have been the last couple of years. But my favorite part about it is exactly that, is how this is a sport that the world shares in. It's not just us. It's not just here in the United States. And listen, I know they have NFL fans all over the world. There's a reason why when they go to Mexico City or they go to London or they go to anywhere else that they sell out these stadiums. I get it. But that side of it specifically has been the coolest part, because if anybody here in the U.S. wants to say any of those things that pastor just said, it's pretty easy to turn around and be like, well, hey, the rest of the world disagrees with you. And I would even go as far to say that millions of people in this country disagree with you. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly who he was targeting. There were people in the crowd who I imagine who to your point, yeah, it may have ruined it for them. And like me as a full-grown adult hearing that, okay, I'm smart enough, I'm emotionally capable enough of knowing the response to that and knowing that he's full of bull honky. But to a kid, to a child, to an adolescent, to an amateur, someone young, that can absolutely change everything. Everything. Yeah. We got a problem here in the U.S. with some people. We do.
I think you said everything that I would say. And again, I mean, we've tried to for the most part steer clear of topics like this. I just felt compelled this morning to share this. And if you're just joining us, we had a TikTok video that we showed of a pastor who was comparing soccer. If you play it, that you're gay. Basically, used a different word to describe it, but that's the gist of it. And went on to say how much playing football, American football, would be the sport that you should participate in. And so that's what led us to through this conversation this morning. And it's a narrow mind like that, a narrow viewpoint like that is what here lies the problem in the United States of America, because I think a lot of people share this sentiment. Not that if you play it that you would be quote unquote gay, but that if you play that soccer is beneath them. It's beneath me. There are other sports that are way more important, or quote unquote, there are other sports. And so, which leads us to talking about what happened last night at the ESPYs. And, the ESPYs, it's like, one day maybe NSN will create its own show. Right? We'll call it, I don't know what we're going to call it, but we'll call it something, right? The NSNEs, something like that. But anyways, but it's like we create these awards and they mean something now. We bring all the sports people together and they sit in a room and then we're going to bring up, who currently is, quote unquote, one of the more popular comedians right now in the world. That's what we do. We bring up comedians to be hosts of shows. And so when you bring a comedian to host a show, what do you think is going to happen? I have yet to meet a comedian in my entire life or watch a comedian in my entire life that wasn't aiming to do something that was designed to create a talking point, controversy, and get a laugh. And so that's exactly what Shane, and if you've ever watched anything of his, I don't think anything he's ever put out in the world has ever been like quote unquote safe. And so, watch him on Saturday Night Live a bunch of times. If you watch the TV show Tires, everything about that show is not as bad. Bad in the sense that it's not like he's coming in there and it's not a feel good like Lifetime TV show. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and goes, so when you bring somebody in like that, they're going to do what they do best, and it's going to create problems. But again, I have yet to see an Oscar, an Emmy, all SAG Awards where you don't have someone up there who picks at politics, picks at the people themselves in the room. Shit, we just saw Will Smith beat the shit out of Chris Rock on live air like 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
It's like,
yep.
Leave my wife's name out of your effing mouth. And she's like, you haven't called me your wife in years. It's like, what is going on here?
Yep.
What are we up in arms about? I just, it's funny. It's like we like live in this. I don't know what I struggle with this because I woke up this morning again. I'm looking at my phone and everyone's pissed off about Shane Gillis. Like, oh, this is bad. Comparing Caitlin Clark to the Waffle House and this, that, and the other. It's like, what did you expect? Again, unless you're going to bring in, I think Peyton Manning has hosted this before, I think. And if he has, he's definitely posted and Peyton Manning, feel good like that, guy next door, kind of like Southern, whatever charm. He got that. He's not going to go that far far to the either side. He'll be a little more reserved just because that's as Peyton is. But I think because Peyton is an athlete, I think people would probably take what he was saying on that stage probably a little with more grain of salt than Shane Gillis, who, I don't think he's ever played a sport.
Big Midwestern dude.
So I don't know why everybody's up in arms. This is what they do. You can't go to you can't go to these things and expect, I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
It's a different day and age, man. You remember
It's always been this way,
Norm Macdonald, right?
Oh yeah.
Norm Macdonald. Yeah. 1998. Yeah. These athletes would not have survived the 2000s or the late 90s. They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have. I think we can all admit, we live in a society that's soft now. I think we can all admit that we live in a society that gets offended over everything. We see it every day. That JT, with what we put up on social, people will watch the first 5 seconds, they'll get offended, they'll go comment. The other side of it too that I think is important mentioning, because I was listening to that last night as well, and I was laughing about it, and it's funny because Shane,
you were laughing. How dare you, Nathan Wangler?
Hey,
you were laughing. You were laughing.
Right.
What is wrong with you, Nathan Wangler?
Terrible, right? Terrible. The Shane actually said during the middle of it. Yeah, we'll do good cop, bad cop here. That works out well. Shane was even saying during the middle of it, he's like, guys, all right, it's not that serious. All right, everyone relax. Because he could tell that the room was tense. My thing is, and I didn't really see the same reception. I don't know what social media platform you're on. I think it all depending. I think if you're on TikTok, everybody loved it. Normally because all the people on TikTok are a little bit younger. And I think we're going to circle back the opposite direction at some point here. The outrage culture is going to go away. I think because I think specifically the younger kids, Gen Z, I'll give them a little bit of credit here for all the stupid stuff they do. They don't really care about political correctness or any of that all those other things. So I do think it's going back the other direction. But Shane Gillis did a marvelous job. And let me say this. A lot of those athletes, a lot of the people in that building are scared to laugh. They're scared to laugh. They're scared to enjoy it because they know after these zingers, you want to know what the camera does. It pans to the athletes and the people in attendance.
The Bill Belichick, by the way, that whole thing
was
miraculous. Probably the best of the whole.
Miraculous.
73-year-old man with
little engine that could, but it needs a pill first. Oh my God. A bookie is what Bill Belichick reads to his girlfriend before bed. Unbelievable. And yeah, did he toe that line? Yes. Yes, he did. Did he step over the line? Yes. But you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into. But Disney/ESPN has set a tone. And so my theory is that a lot of these athletes, a lot of the people in attendance, you even saw it in a lot of ways with like Pat McAfee. They kept showing Pat. For whatever reason, Pat was like the guy that they were hung up on. And there were some of them that he laughed about. I think the Belichick joke, he really got a belly laugh out of that one. But, the Juan Soto joke, some of these other things, you could tell inside he wanted to laugh. Inside he wanted to enjoy it. But we know how cancel culture goes. We know how it goes. And if you even so much as hint in the direction of I support this or I think, this, that, or the other thing, you're done. You're done.
Nathan was just canceled. He was laughing last night during the broadcast. And so therefore we've canceled him from the show.
It's like in the cartoon when like the cane comes in and they like yank you away.
No, I mean, it just, again, the athletes, their jobs is to play a sport. I mean, we're paying people to entertain us.
Millions of dollars, by the way.
To be fair, I'm not paying really at all. Right. I mean, so I think that we just need to start thinking about that. I mean, like legit. Okay. I want to put this in perspective. There is a kid right now in this country who is playing baseball. Maybe right now, maybe later tonight for their little travel team or whatever. And at the exact same time, a grown ass man is playing the exact same position as that kid. Put that in perspective for a second. Now, think this thing through. Somewhere in this world, someone is holding an M16 rifle protecting the United States of America on some battleground or some base someplace. Tell me where right now in this world there is another person doing that, like, at that age. you can't. So I think perspective-wise, these athletes are literally living the dreams of all these little kids all across the world. And so we take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the professionals, but let's be honest. I mean, they were all kids one day. They were all trying to play a sport that they loved, and now they're doing it and they're getting paid for it. And so it's like, we're not. I was watching another comedian this morning talking. This woman was like moved from Ohio to Maryland, and he's like, "What do you do what do you move here for?" "Oh, military." Like, what branch? "Oh, Army." "Okay." One of those comedians that kind of gets back and forth with the audience, and he's like, "Well, what do you do?" And she's like, "Sierra 92." He's like, "What is that?" She's like, "Well, we put up tents and we fix showers and install showers for everybody." And he's like, "You're such a hero." he's like, "You're such a hero." you know, the way he said it, and she's laughing. It went on for a couple of minutes, but it's like I mean, like seriously, I mean, it's like we take ourselves way too serious, and it's like
Prima
come
donnas,
on,
man.
yeah, it's like come
Prima
on, man, like
donnas.
you play basketball.
Yep.
Your job, like 80 nights a year, is to play basketball.
Dribble
That's
a ball.
Your job.
Shoot a ball.
That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more. And by the way,
Yep.
while you're doing it, don't be a douche.
Well,
don't be a douche. Don't go out
it-
there and be an asshole and beat on people and get yourself in trouble. Don't be a decent person. Like that's your job,
Mhm.
And that's where all like the stuff comes from. Let's be honest. If all the athletes out there weren't prima donnas, could you imagine what that would look like last night? Shane Gilstrap staying up there like this the entire show. What do I talk about?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And I love him. His mannerisms are just like.
His delivery is definitely unique.
So,
And I love that about him. Yeah. No,
anyways.
they're prima donnas. They've had people just pat them on the back, tell them they're awesome their entire life. This, that, you're the greatest. And then someone gets up there and says a few things about you on national TV. And now all of a sudden it's, we're shutting down and we're not laughing about it. Part of me thinks, and this is the difference, and this is why it sucks, right? Because you and I have this public persona that we have to maintain, even on my social media platforms. I think it's interesting that we're talking about this today because I actually just had a friend that's been friends with me on social media for the longest time that I got to meet recently, just a few weeks ago, actually last week, and he was telling me about certain things, and he was talking about how for the longest time, it was for 2 years we were friends on social media. There were certain things that he's like, I don't know if I can say that. I don't know if I can send that. This, that, and the other thing. He's like, I didn't know where you fell on all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm a good person. I really should only be judged by the content of my character and by all those other things. But that is the line that we're constantly towing because even if you want to laugh, even if you find this funny, when you look at those athletes, and I'm sure a lot of them probably found it very entertaining, there is this political correctness in the sports world. It rules with an iron fist. And Shane Gillis
in all worlds.
In all worlds, it's fair. But at the end, wonderfully, may I add, he goes, I'm sure some of you don't like me. That's fine. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Because to be a good comedian, that's where you have to be. And Bill Burr said it. Bill Burr is, I think, my favorite comedian in the world. He's like, comedy's dead. Comedy is dead. At least the comedy that we knew. And so in order to be at your best, you have to have this mentality of, I don't really care what you think about me. And to do that in front of a room full of the greatest athletes in our country, miraculous. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. No notes. No notes.
He's been canceled again.
Twice
10!
in one show?
It's a 10.
That's a record. That's a record, man.
I forgot where there was a scene. I forgot what movie it was, but the kid's like, "Oh, it's a 10. It's a 10." And anyways, hey, yesterday we left the show with this idea that we wanted to talk about. Hey,
Varsity
11,
Blues.
Yes, Bubba.
Gotcha.
It's a 10. It's a 10.
I got you.
Yeah. My guy. Hey, so we left the show yesterday talking about starting 11. If there was any player in America who was an athlete of any sport, who would make it into our starting 11 for the World Cup? And this is your list. I'll be honest with you. I didn't have a chance to think about this yesterday. As soon as our show was over with yesterday,
I know you were going from meeting to
meeting, after meeting, and then meeting, and then game. So, and then after this, I go meeting. Okay. Anyway, so long story short, I didn't get to this, but I want to dive into this. I did not make a graphic either, but we're going to talk through this. And to the person on TikTok that says that I had a loser's point of view yesterday.
Oh my God. Those cornballs.
Oh
my God.
I like Shane Gillett. I don't care. So
you might not like us, but I don't care.
With that being said, our goalkeeper. Now, this is an interesting take. It's an interesting take. Okay, now, and the reason why I think about this, okay, and if you're telling me that this is and in real time, I'm probably going to make who I think would be a goalkeeper based on what I know about this. You have LeBron James as our goalkeeper. Now, he might be really tall. I don't think LeBron James is quick. I don't think he's quick.
Ooh.
Quick.
Not
quick.
not LBJ now.
I'm thinking reflex wise. Because you think about a goalkeeper, right? You have to have agility, you have to have flexibility, and you have to have the ability to be electric. You have to have a lot of different things that have to happen. Okay, I don't know if LeBron James fits this now. Size wise, he does. I don't doubt that. But agile. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that statement. He's got to be explosive with his in a singular moment. Again, not saying that he couldn't do that, but I don't know if I agree with LeBron James. But I get your take on it. To be fair, if you think about it from the standpoint, a wide receiver, but more like a slot receiver, might be a better pick for this role.
Okay.
Because they're used to having to make quick steps, usually not afraid to get down, get dirty,
Fair.
I actually feel like an Amon St. Brown might, even though he's not tall,
Right.
but I actually feel like he might be a better fit, just characteristic wise. You picked Terrell Owens, Odell Beckham Jr. I'm sorry, to be our striker. Again, a receiver, he's quick. Could he do that? I don't know. He's more north-south. So that might be, but
I would be good at soccer, though. I don't know if you've ever actually seen him play.
Yeah,
he's all right. So
I'm just trying to think about this, think that through. We could have also taken off the pads of any hockey goalkeeper too and thrown them in there.
That's fair.
They're used to stopping the puck. You know what I mean?
Fair.
So it's harder to stop the puck than it is to stop a soccer ball. So
yes,
I would actually argue that maybe putting a hockey goalkeeper. I'm not a big hockey guy right now, so maybe you could tell me who that would be. But left back, Tyreek Hill. It's an interesting one.
He can get forward. He can drop back. He can cover a lot of ground. I'm just saying, I don't know what his endurance looks like, but in terms of just from a pure speed perspective, I don't know. I think he'd be a good one in that spot. I don't know. I was watching a video of actually Matt Turner breaking down who he might have in some of these spots. I didn't take all of his choices, but that was one that he actually explained. So I was like, it kind of makes sense.
Okay.
I can see that.
So then our center backs, you've got Draymond Green and Darrelle Revis. So first off, I mean, Draymond Green wouldn't stay in the game for longer than about 2 minutes. I don't think that, it's like.
You just got to coach him up a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, coach him up a little bit as he comes in full-fledged tackle. Like,
Here's a red, go.
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I'm thinking I got to find this video, but I'd like to know your take, goalie, on why Darrelle Revis.
That's a bad man right there. That is a bad man. He would be sliding in and taking out everybody. Now, I would hope legally, but Darrelle Revis was the baddest dude in the NFL for his career in there. He had red in his eyes when he played the game. Now, again, soccer takes a little bit more grace, a little bit more elegance, a little bit more skill than football does sometimes. Thing is about having the forward pass in the game of American football is you really can't take someone's head off if you want to. Now, not nearly as much now as maybe what you used to be able to because of rule changes and everything else along those lines, but Darrelle Revis is a bad dude. I would not want to handle the ball anywhere near that guy. So I'm thinking I'm factoring in some of that into what I'm thinking here.
All right, so this is what I think of when I think of Draymond Green, even though.
Oh no! Oh no! Boom! That's Darrelle Revis too. That's a good hit.
Hey, going back to that pasture.
What are you watching?
Yeah, I can guarantee you that that mother felt that hit. I can guarantee you.
Multiple generations felt that one. Oh my goodness.
Sorry,
Whew.
I had to do that. Anyway, okay. So you got Darrelle Revis, Draymond Green. Our right back, Patrick Beverley. Talk me through that one.
Beverly's the same exact. He's scrappy, man, but he's also quick. So he's one of the best defenders in the National Basketball Association when he was in the NBA. But in terms of someone who can get up and down the floor, again, much like Tyreek Hill, he can do that. Well, not the floor, but the pitch, the different stuff. But he has good range. He's also a really, really good defender. So I'm trying to build up a beefy back line here. I'm trying to build up guys who can really defend well. And so I think Beverly fits in there pretty well, given his defensive prowess.
Okay. Moving on here now to our midfield. And you've got three midfielders here. So it looks like we're doing a 4-3-3 is our formation. Aiden Hutchinson, Patrick Mahomes, and Anthony Edwards. And not the Anthony Edwards from Top Gun or ER. I want to make sure I clarify that.
Yeah, man. Mahomes can put it on a dime. Now, again, this is assuming that he can do it with his foot. But again, we're living in a fantasy land, people. This is a fantasy conversation. This is not a reality conversation. Okay. If we're talking reality, obviously none of this would work. We would probably be the worst soccer team ever if this was in reality. But again, this is just, what if they ended up picking football, soccer once upon a time, as opposed to playing whatever. So Mahomes, great at delivering. He can deliver balls over the top, probably really good at through balls, really good at finding players in stride. Aiden Hutchinson being our centerpiece, I think is great. I think he would he could be a defensive mid if you wanted him to. I think that'd probably be a better fit for him. But center mid, I don't think is too bad either because of the things that he presents. Who was the third one that I had on there?
Anthony Edwards.
Oh, Ant-Man. Yep. Yeah, good defense. Plus athleticism, and he has an ability. He drops dimes as well. I think a lot of people look at Ant, they think of his finishing ability, his scoring ability, but he can also set up dudes pretty well. So I think that's a strong midfield, at least in my opinion.
And then our forwards, left wing, Steph Curry, our striker, Odell Beckham Jr., and then Christian McCaffrey is our right striker. No, actually, I'm sorry. You have him as a striker. You have right wing as Odell Beckham Jr. I apologize.
Yeah, Odell Beckham Jr. actually can play a little footy. That dude actually has some repertoire to him, so he could cross some good balls in. Steph, I think, is self-explanatory. I mean, I really don't think that really requires a whole lot of explaining. That guy's the maestro. And then Christian McCaffrey, I just think would be good up top. I think that's something that you and I both talked about, that he would be a really good striker. Obviously strong as hell. And I'm sure in terms of power, he probably has a little bit of that too. And grace running onto the balls. It's going to be tough to keep up with him. So I think that's a strong 11. What I will say is in terms of athleticism and quick reflexes, I think LeBron had that. I'm thinking like early Cavs LeBron, not like, 40 years old trying to stick around for as long as he can LeBron. In a little bit of a different conversation. But yeah, that's my fantasy 11 of players that do not play soccer.
Yeah, when I think of this game and I think of what you have put together, I think of this right here. So hang on one second.
Oh boy.
So this is what I think of. This is exactly how this whole thing will just go on the soccer field. that is what I think of when I think of yeah.
That it would just be red.
That's what I think of when I see that roster of players. And Peter's like the replacements. I could not help myself when I saw that. But hey, I mean, we would get murdered. It wouldn't even be close. It would not even be funny. And so, but I think it's fun that we should totally try and do it though, to see what that would look like against actual soccer players, to see, They say that U.S. women's national team against the U14 boys team have gotten like just smoked. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I would love to actually see this in action. I would love to actually see a roster like this against, against a real team and see what happens. But that'll wrap up number 120 here today on Inside the Game. Yeah, a very interesting show. I think that, a lot of great conversations coming out of things that are happening in the world around us, and we'll continue to do that. We'll let you know about tomorrow. We have a very busy weekend. We've got a lot of USL2, USLW, UPSL, WPSL, League for Clubs all taking place this weekend, and so we have to get prepared for that. I mean, we have 16 games. We have 18 broadcasts tomorrow, of which 16 of USL2. So a lot on our plate. So we might not do a show tomorrow. We'll let you know. But that'll wrap up 120 nonetheless. And if we are back tomorrow at the same time, same place, we'll let you know. But we have a lot of exciting things coming up this weekend. So stay tuned for that. Either way, we're happy you stopped by. Subscribe, like us, share with your friends and family. That's Nathan Wanger. I'm Jonathan Turner. You've been watching Inside the Game right here on the National Soccer Network. We'll be back at it again, the same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game.